Okay, I'm going to walk you through the Space Invaders game that I developed in Java. I'll see if I can show you it running. So there we go. Hello, I'm just trying to show you the running Space Invaders game. So those are what I colloquially call fodder. See them shooting 4 bullets at a time, and that's a mystery craft. There we go. So this is the I call it Rocket, and it's in a project called Saturn. I was going to do a simulation, a mathematical simulation of the Saturn V going into orbit to see if I could figure out a trajectory or something. Didn't know what I was going to do, but I decided to change my mind and go for a Space Invaders game. So this, you can see, is a set of constants. Very start of the rocket class. And these fodder tends to mean the alien craft. This is the mystery craft, so the width and height of the mystery craft. Yeah. These down here are the parameters for the display system. So if you've got game over, you get a game over screen. High score, you get a high score screen. Nominal, where you get the game. Pop up, you get the high score entry. And that's it. And this is the initial screen. This is the variable that monitors the screen type. So you can see here you've got the craft, the shields, the gun, the bullets, all the initial declarations. These are all initialized in the init. So let's go. This is the rocket constructor, and you can see yeah, George is a bad name, but this essentially gets the high score table stored on the drive. It's actually nothing called scores.txt, I think, or bin. It could be even bin, because it's a binary file. This is the call to init, and these are the listeners for the key listener and the closing of the window listener. So it actually performs an exit 0 if the window is closed. These are simply the capital A, lowercase a for left, lowercase d, uppercase D for right. And I do some summation effectively to make sure that when you press the keys together you end up with a stop, and when you release a key it starts straight away. Seems to work quite well. I think if you did it simply as a single direction that you're altering, you end up with a bit of a mess. So it's probably one worth remembering. This is unit. You can see the craft, which is an array of 5 by 11. shield, 3 shields, bullets, 5 bullets. First being the friendly bullet, the other 4 being the enemy bullets. This is simply monitors the fire button press, which is space button, and these are the gun direction. Ship count is 3, so that's the number of lives. Screen is set to nominal, which is the game. And these are used, I think, for the alien craft coming down. So this is the 5 rows, and this is the initial score. This is 5 rows by 11 columns. You can see this uses, let's say what craft? Yeah, here we go. Top line, middle line, middle line, bottom line, bottom line. So those are the craft that you're initializing in the array. These are the 3 shields that are initialized, and you can see the offsets and stuff. And this is the gun. This is run every time the game is restarted. High scores, this is the thing that sets up the encrypted file, just so you can't just put in a score you like. It's quite a simple encryption, but seems to work quite well. So that's just load and save to the high score table. Score name, this is a simple class just for allowing scores to be printed on the screen, as well as scores to be represented with the name in the high score table. This is a craft enum, just general purpose thing with a map to allow you to get values and so forth and model onto maps. So it's quite quick. This is the explosion, so you see there's 200 points. You can change that if you want to get more points. This doesn't use a separate class. It probably should do to enable you to have point and velocity. I just did that separately, so it's only in here anyway. But you can see on the draw, it does an addition of the dx and dy to allow the pixels to move outwards. It colours it from white to black. 255 iterations. Does it have a limit? Let's count. I think the limit is tested in the my thread, which is the control. This is a craft. You can see it loading in. This read BI allows you to read in multiple times without actually doing it multiple times. It remembers when you've read bottom 1, for example, and if you read bottom 1 again, it gets it from the store. It doesn't reread it in. So that's quite handy because there's obviously hundreds of the aliens. You can see this collision. This is to check that either your mystery craft has collided. It's effectively a circle or isn't an ellipse. Yeah, it's an ellipse, and it checks to see if the point is within the ellipse. If it's within the ellipse, then you know that it's hit the mystery craft. And this one is for the others, which are termed fodder. Fodder is something you eat. It's a farming term. It's just something I call the aliens because you shoot them and, well, they're cannon fodder. And this is a draw, so again you get the mystery image, and this is the the one for the fodder. Essentially, um, there's two images for each of the fodder, and you oscillate between the two to get the animation. And this is eating up the shields, so sets the colour to black, and G2 is the background, so it's setting a fill rectangle for the same size as the fodder, with black, so it's an erase of the shields. This is a shield, so just a single input. Again, it just draws the output. So this is a gun. Again, the collision is in the lips, and yep, you return Boolean to see if it's collided. And this is a draw with the fodder width and fodder height. Bullet, so it just does something different on dependent on which one. So it's got draw friendly and draw enemy. Draw friendly is the first one. You'll see a yep. So it's just call from the controller and decides which is which, dependent on the array index. This is its hit shields. Hit shields is calculated from the draw, so it works out if the colour is greater than black, which is red effectively. It doesn't bother about what type of red or what index of red, just if it's greater than black. All the rest is black, so it works fine. Yeah, so this is the map, which is a hash map for the BI files, buffered image files. This is the buffered image read BI. You can see here that it takes the if bio files contains key file name. File name is unique. If it's not there, then it does a put and an image IO read of the file, and that put will put it into there, so next time it comes in it knows about it already, and then it returns BI files get file name, so it knows. With it being a map, it's getting the buffered image associated with the file name. These are a few leftovers. Probably should be higher up. I can rectify that. This is the paint. So this is double buffering. So you can see that you've got a graphic screen GC equals null. If G is not equal to null and screen GC equals G, G equals buffer get graphics. So that's the second buffer. This switch is showing which thing should be displayed on the main display. So nominal, you can see the explosion, it does a background yellow, set color. If background is null, then we fill the rectangle with width and height. In this case it would be yellow. If it was it would be yellow if it was the explosion. And this is drawing the shields. So this is copying the background with the new buffered image. So it's generating a background if the explosion it has not been set off. And this is a copy of the buffer to the background. So it's doing a set RGB pixel by pixel setting. Then it draws the image, which is the background. So it draws the background, and then we've got the draw for the mystery craft. And that's drawing the fodder. It's doing it by row and by column. You could just do it by the there is a list, so you could do it by that, but it's just how I had it. So, and this is a gun draw. This is a bullet draw. So it's saying if it's naught, then draw friendly. If it's 1 to 4, 1 to 5, 1 to less than 5, then it draws the enemy. This is the explosion, so it's drawing the explosion. And if it counts down, so if it's greater than 0, it draws it. Otherwise, it sets it to null. So that's what it was doing. Yeah, that's the initial color of that. That's the color of the score, the high score, and the lives. So it's white for the text. This is a game over screen. This is a high score screen, so you can see it displays the last 10 high scores. This is a pop-up, do nothing. That's essentially it's there all the time. So if you do nothing, then you don't overwrite it. And then you've got a default throw a new invalid parameter exception if the screen is of invalid type. And then it draws the buffer, which is now contains the new screen, which is being rendered by all the draws. This is a high score pop-up. Standard J panel with an action listener for the basically, if you once we get to the controller, you'll see that it gives you a set time to enter, and then if the high score is valid, then it gets put up onto the high score and saved. So this is the main guts of it, which is the my thread. I probably should have called it controller. Okay. So there's a run. There's a wild truth. So it's forever. Never stops. So this is the initial status of cleared level, and then we do a do. Set the background to null. Set a time for the mystery craft to come back in the order of frames times 500. Mystery direction is 6 pixels per frame. Mystery craft is null, so it's not initially there. And if the ship, while the ship count is greater than 0 and not cleared level, so it's while you've got some lives, and that's another loop. So this is the zigzag. See, it depends on the value of position. It goes to 150, then to 0, and it waits every 5 frames before it does the move to slow it down. This is display of the fodder. Well, it's not display, it's a setting of the X and Y of the fodder from the above. Down equals 0. Down is only set when the position hits a boundary. So this is the gun animation. So it's setting the gun X and Y and only allowing it to go so far. these are the bullet animations, and this is right. This is the collision when you hit the enemy. So hit equals collision bullets. Yep, and collision is a method which we might not have come across yet. The situation is that there's a massive collision method that checks to see any of the aliens have been hit. If they have, it returns the alien. Otherwise, no. So you can see this hit set off an explosion at the bullet location, and kill the bullet. This is killing the bullet if it goes over the top. This is killing the bullet if it hits the shield. Still wipes out a bit of the shield, because until it actually hits a bit of red, his hit shields doesn't get set. So there might be a frame or so where it doesn't hit red, so that there's no raise effectively. If fire, then it generates a new bullet from the position of the gun. Well, plus 8 pixels, so it's the middle of the gun. Bullets craft. So this is saying, well, it's going from the second one to the last one, checking to see whether or not they've hit the gun. So if gun collision, bullet location, explosion sets off an explosion, ship count minus, it's killed a ship, bullet count equals no. That kills a bullet. So if the bullet hits shields, again, as I said before, there's a frame or so where the bullet can penetrate the shield and erase the shield with black. Then it sets the bullet to no. It kills the bullet. This is that's a good question. Oh, okay, yeah, this is the calculation for generating the bullets from the craft. So because the craft bullet can be erased, like this bullet I equals no, then it says, oh, we've got to set up a new one. So there's always 4 bullets in flight at any time. I called it naughty one. Well, because it's naughty because it's firing a bullet, I suppose. And this is saying if a bullet is beyond the bottom, then said it's nothing. Enemy collides with gun, as it says. Set off an explosion. Check the gun collision with a point of fire. Point of fire is the gun position. Oh no, it's not. It's that list. So it's the list of available fodder craft. So it's going through the list of fodder craft and seeing whether or not any of them hit, and if they do generate explosion, kill the ship. Clear level is that list of fodder, size equals 0, so that essentially if there are no craft left, then you've cleared the level, and that will exit the loop. And this here just checks to see if any of the ships hit the bottom of the screen. If they do, terminate the game. So ship count equals 0, So it's all the way from 3 all the way to 0. This is mystery minus minus, which is deleting whatever the random number was, decrementing by 1. So it sets it off when it reaches 0. This is if the mystery craft gets hit, set off an explosion. This is causing the mystery craft to zigzag. This is giving the random score. No, this is the yeah, that's a random score. So if you hit the craft, you get the random score, and that's the explosion. This is the resetting of the mystery craft to a random time, up to 500 frames. The frames are, I think it's 40 milliseconds a frame. So, yep, mystery direction. Yep, this is the tick. I think he's sort of initialized to 40. This is the repaint, so that refreshes the screen. If cleared level. Yeah, temp lives. Yeah, so this stores the score on the ship count before it does an init, and then it gives the score back to the temp score. If a cleared level, yeah. So if the level is cleared, it gives you an extra ship. Else ship count equals 0. So that's effectively terminating the loop if and terminate the game if you didn't clear the level. Tick minus minus, so the game gets faster and faster. So ship count is greater than 0 and clear level, otherwise terminate. So the frame count plus plus. This is outside the game. So this frame count is used to do the rest of the stuff. So that these are effectively times in frames. So we have if outside the loop and the frame count is less than 49, then the screen is the game over screen. Yeah, so this will do the screen pop-up if the frame count is greater than 50 or less than 500. If the score is greater than the high score, it sets it visible. Otherwise, it doesn't, and it shifts the frame count up to 501, which is beyond this one, which is the high score table, because it's 501 is greater than 500. This here is just for the pop-up, for entering your name and against a score. If the frame count is greater than 750, frame count equals 0 and it starts again. There's a re-init and the tick equals 40. This is restarting the game from the initial conditions. This is the outer tick, so always it's 40 milliseconds. So if the screen isn't pop-up, then repaint. So it calls the paint method to draw the various stuff. This obviously needs to be disabled if a pop-up is up for you entering the high score. So that's why. So this is called set high, and it just sets the high score. This is the craft collision that I think we talked about earlier. You can see what it does. It goes through the rows and columns of the fodder, checks to see if they are enabled. So if it's displayed, then call the collision. The point of fire is a list of fodder. So I call it point of fire because that's where the fire comes from. So you remove the fodder and then return fodder row I. Otherwise it does not. It terminates the loops, returns null. And this is a main. Effectively that's it. So this generates a rocket object. This gets container pane for the pop-up. This generates the thread. This starts the thread. This sets out the size of app. So size, width, height. Title rocket sets visible. And the high score panel equals a new high score panel. It's always there, but just sometimes invisible. My thread dot set high. So that's setting it. Does it get it from the high score table? I think it gets it from the high score table. Yep. So new high score panel gives you the value of high. High set visible. And this is adding the high score panel to this, to the content pane. That high there is actually the high score panel, and it's setting the high inside my thread, because my thread has to control what comes from that. Okay, and that's the size of the the pop-up, and set visible equals false, so you can't see it. And that's it, guys. Okay.